This is S.Priyadharshini working as an assistant professor in the Department of Artificial Intelligence and Data Science. Today we are going to dwell in the same topic, yarn. Already we have seen what is yarn. Now in this series we are going to see what are the components used in yarn. So first let me tell you what is, I'll give a detailed thing about what is yarn. So yarn was introduced in Hadoop version 2.0 to reduce the bottleneck that is available in Hadoop version 1.0. When you take Hadoop version 1.0, the thing was everything was handled by the HDFS was handling the file system storage, whereas the other component, the processing of data, is done only by MapReduce, which was a severe bottleneck to map and reduce task. So in order to eradicate those bottlenecks and for improving the scalability issues as well, in Hadoop 2.0 version, they have introduced yarn component, which is yet another resource negotiator, mainly by Amazon and the Hortonworks. So what are the components of yarn? So before going into detail about yarn components, let's see what is yarn. So yarn is nothing but yet another resource negotiator. That is, it is the main job of yarn is to only managing the resources. So let's see the components of yarn. So first component is resource manager. So resource manager is the ultimate authority in resource allocation. It receives the processing request, then it passes part of request to the corresponding node managers accordingly. The resource manager passes the request to the corresponding node managers, and here where the actual processing would take place. So resource manager acts as an arbitrator for the cluster resource and decides the allocation of the available resource for competing applications. It optimizes the cluster utilization, like keeping all the resources in use all the time against various constraints such as capacity guarantees, fairness, and service level request assistance as well. The main components used in the major components in resource manager is mainly the scheduler and the application manager. So let's see what a scheduler is. The scheduler, it is responsible for allocating resources to the various running applications subject to constraints of capacities, queues, etc. It is basically a pure scheduler and resource manager, which means that it does not perform any monitoring or tracking the status of the application. If there is an application failure or hardware failure, the scheduler will not guarantee to restart the failed task. Perform scheduling based on the resource requirements of the applications. So this is how the scheduler works. It allocates resources to the various running applications. So it has a pluggable policy plugin which is responsible for partitioning the cluster resources among various applications. Now there are two such plugins, capacity scheduler and fair scheduler, are currently used as schedulers in the resource manager component. The next one is application manager. So the application manager is responsible for accepting all the job submissions by the client. It negotiates the first container from the resource manager for executing the application specific application master, manages running the application masters in a cluster, and provides services for restarting the application master container on hardware failure or of system failure. The next component is node manager. The node manager is responsible to take care of individual nodes in a Hadoop cluster and manages usage jobs and workflow on the given node. It registers with the resource manager and sends heartbeat with the health status of the node. The main goal is to manage application containers assigned to it by the resource manager. It keeps up to date with the resource manager. Application master requests the assigned container from the node manager by sending it to container launch context, which includes everything the application needs in order to run. The node manager creates the requested container process and starts it then. It also monitors resource usage, mainly memory, CPU, for individual containers. Also, it performs log management as well. It also kills the container as directed by the resource manager when and where if it is needed. The next component is application master. So an application is a single job submitted to the framework. Each such application has a unique application master associated with the framework specific entity. It is the process that coordinates an application engine in the cluster and manages failures. Its task is to negotiate resources from the resource manager and work with the node manager to execute and monitor the component task. Once started, it periodically sends heartbeats to the resource manager to affirm its health status and also to update the record of its resource demands. It is also responsible for negotiating appropriate resource containers from the resource manager, tracking their status and monitoring the progress. Container. It is a collection of physical resources such as RAM, CPUs, cores and disks on a single node. Yarn containers are managed by a container launch context, which is CLC, that is container lifecycle. This record contains a map of environment variables, dependencies stored in a remotely accessible storage, security tokens, payload for node manager services and the command necessary to create the process. This grants rights to an application to a specific amount of resources on a specific host.